to WCSU Digital Focus, broadcasting to you from Western Connecticut State University, where we are overexposed and fully disclosed. I'm Vaughn, and today I'm joined by Drew and Mike. We have a couple things to talk about here, first of which is Monster Hunter, developed by Capcom. And Drew, this is one of your current favorite games.
Yes, it is. So Monster Hunter is actually one of the biggest games in Japan at the moment, and it's just starting to become very popular here in the US. Obviously it's a hunting game where you take place as a hunter roaming around the world, hunting down massive monsters, gathering their parts, and using them to create powerful weapons and armor. This is very different than normal games that we have here today. There's no actual experience points in leveling up. You as the player actually level up and gain experience. You learn how to play as and use one of the 15 different weapons. You learn how monsters fight, and you grow as the actual character, and you learn how to play the game as you play it.
That's really interesting. So actually this one has more of a narrative than previous games also.
Yeah.
So you're kind of playing as a hunter who takes on villagers' quests, most of which involve adventurers or going into nearby wilderness to track, kill, or capture the deadly monsters. And apparently, according to Polygon, its previous games had about 5 hours of tutorial time. This one cuts that down to like maybe 1 or 2 depending on your skill level. And it spreads the lessons around to later parts of the game, so you're learning continuously. So Polygon has given it an 8.5, and IGN has given it a 9, which is pretty astounding, and apparently it's the best game in the series, so definitely pick that up if you're looking into it. It's for the 3DS. Moving into our next topic of conversation, GTA 5 heists are finally coming. We have a release date. It is March 10th. We are very excited. They've been pushed back. I don't even know how many times now. Too many times.
I stopped playing it, but I got it again just because, you found out it was coming out again.
Do you have it on next gen?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so you have it on Xbox One, I assume.
Mm-hmm. By the way, oh my God, beautiful.
They released a heist trailer a couple months ago, and they looked really, really amazing, but there was still no set release date. So now that we have a release date, it's definitely something to keep an eye on. The final bit of news for this is Arkham Knight just received an M rating as opposed to its predecessors, which were all rated teen. There's a lot of controversy surrounding this, going into a new Batman game having an M rating when its target audience is teenagers. So I don't know. What do you think about that?
I've never personally played the games, but from what I've seen, the range of audience is very low. So I know that a lot of younger kids tend to like it. Granted, they can still have like their family members purchase it for them, but that does really restrict the audience for the game.
It does. In my opinion, I feel like the people who bought the first couple games were teenagers at the time when those came out, and now have kind of moved into being a mature audience and have the ability to purchase them themselves. So personally, I don't see an issue with it, but I'm sure younger people who want to purchase it will find a problem with it. Going into our new releases, we have Dragon Ball Xenoverse, which was released today, February 24th. So there's no reviews yet. It's by Bandai Namco Games. It's releasing on PC, PS3, PS4, 360, and One, and features full 3D destructible environments where fighters can traverse levels with free roaming in very large spaces and fighting in the air, on the ground, and underwater. So I'm very excited.
Open world Dragon Ball Z, that's all you need.
Plus, you have the character customization. You can make your own Super Saiyan, which is pretty cool in my opinion.
You can do. There's multiple races, so it's not limited to just the Saiyans. You can pretty much do.
Preferably, I would go Super Saiyan because that's what I grew up on. So.
All right, fair enough. This game also has single player as well as co-op, so there's a lot of opportunities for gameplay there. And The Order 1886 recently released a single player third-person shooter by Ready at Dawn and SCE Santa Monica Studios. It's a Sony exclusive. Not very good ratings. Polygon gave it a 5.5 preliminary review and said it was very boring and more of the same.
And that's kind of sad considering for a long time they were really hyping that game up.
This game had a lot of hype surrounding it. It was even delayed to try and generate more hype. It was supposed to come out in late 2014, was moved to early 2015 to give it a wider audience, but seems to not be working for it, so I don't know. Are you still going to pick it up?
One word, rental. Granted, absolutely beautiful on the surface, but just like you said, too much of the same stuff. You have chapters that are dedicated to just cinematics. I mean, and the stealth gameplay or the stealth how do you say this, the stealth mechanic in the game.
Yeah.
You just want to keep playing it. Like it's just, they tried and they failed terribly.
I completely agree. I think it's just another generic third-person shooter in another setting. So a little bit disappointing. Maybe the DLC will redeem it. I know there were talks about some DLC for that, so we'll see where that goes.
Hopefully so.
And finally, we have the Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask remake on the 3DS. So this is the exact same game as the original for the N64. Has all of the same content on a brand new platform, so it's bringing in that new younger audience. I don't know, do you think you're going to pick this one up?
Well, I was very skeptical at first because I never really played many of the Legend of Zelda games, but after seeing some gameplay footage, watching the trailers and everything, I'm kind of interested in picking it up.
It definitely looks really interesting. I think just the coloring and the way they remade the game alone is definitely worth checking out and picking up. The 3D, I feel like Nintendo has come a long way. The original 3DS, it looked kind of spotty, but
Yeah.
they've gotten a lot better.
And I've
So-
played I played Ocarina of Time on the 3DS, and it was great, so I might actually pick this up based on that.
Yeah, definitely. So we're going to move into our next segment, which is our 30-second roundtable discussion. So Drew, we want to know, what are you currently playing?
Well, obviously, I'm currently playing Monster Hunter at the moment. I've also been playing, as we discussed last time, Evolve. I personally like that game, but Monster Hunter is my big game that I've been playing. A bunch of my friends have been playing it with me. It has multiplayer online, so you can play with people from around the world. And like I said, it's just such a fun game to be able to go in and just fight these massive monsters that normally you would never be able to fight in real life.
Absolutely. So I'll have to pick that up before we come into next time. And we're going to move into our next segment, which is real time. So, welcome back to our show, where we are now at real time. We're going to be talking about the Oscars, so we brought in an Oscar specialist. This is
Sort of.
Sam. Sort of.
Sometimes.
An Oscar.
Hey.
Sort of sometimes an Oscar
Hey,
specialist.
he's an expert.
So we're going to be talking about the Oscars. They were this past Sunday, the 23rd. So Birdman, the big winner of the evening, 9 nominations, 4 total wins, tied for most wins with Grand Budapest Hotel. Sam, you really liked Birdman.
It was my favorite movie of the year. I know it's not for everybody, I guess. I've went to see it twice in theaters. Both times, people that I went with kind of liked it, but whatever about it, I guess. But there's a lot there that I wasn't sure how it would do in an award show, but because it's very out there, it's kind of esoteric, I guess you could say. But pretty much from the production aspect to the narrative, creative aspect, it had a lot to offer, I thought. And I was happy to see it do so well, even though everyone was talking so much about Boyhood, basically.
I agree. Did you know Boyhood took 12 years to make?
Boyhood took many years, approximately 12
But
to
only
make.
39 days to film. It was filmed for only 39 days.
That is true.
Even though it was a 12-year period that it was being filmed.
Yeah.
But it was only 39 days. So I'm really happy for Patricia Arquette, who won the actress in a supporting role category. But at the same time, she only filmed for 39 days, which I feel like is less than some of these other movies, personally.
I still give the director credit, even though it's like 39 days, whatever. I give the credit for matching up these people who had only returned once a year to connect the characters, to make sure the characters still made sense.
Yeah.
Because I can imagine going a year in between this job and just not remembering anything about the character.
Continuity and the character development itself must have been
Yeah.
the most challenging
Yeah.
portion, which is why I believe Patricia Arquette won. Because for an adult, I can see that. For a kid, it's a little bit easier because I feel like the child's transition was more physical because he himself was growing over 12 years. Because she's an adult, that had to be a personality and a mental transition over this 12-year
Right,
period
right.
as she's interacting with this child growing up. So
Yeah.
definitely something worth seeing once if you haven't seen it.
Absolutely.
Seen
Everyone
it,
should.
But very good. Have you seen any of the Oscar movies?
Just Interstellar, which I'm so bummed
Oh,
about.
I don't think that counts as an Oscar movie.
It was an experience. It's the spectacle movie of the year, I'd
yeah,
say.
like Gravity was last year.
Yeah. But it wasn't even nominated for Best Picture, right?
Nope.
And
not.
that's okay. It could have been. I could have easily seen it and go, oh, sure, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just happy that they got their visual effects award because I don't know if you guys have seen
Yeah.
the
The behind the scenes.
amazing, huge physical moving sets and just like that was amazing to me. Like
Yeah.
the scale put into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interstellar was nominated for 5 Oscars. So that was visual effects, which is the one that it won. Original score, production design, sound editing, and sound mixing.
Yeah.
The last 2, I was very anti-Interstellar on.
I know a lot of people were upset about the score loss. They thought the composer, that was going to be his Oscar, but it was not.
Yeah, that was a Hans Zimmer score.
Hans Zimmer,
Yeah.
yes. Something he does a lot in his scores, I'm generalizing, I guess, he's very iterative, and he takes inspiration from other scores, other composers, and that was arguably the case in this movie. I think that's why it lost, ultimately.
Probably. But you could argue that this entire movie took a lot of inspiration from
Except for
other
the visual
things,
effects. The practical effects were very original.
which is why I believe it won.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of that separation of what it took as inspiration and kind of redid versus what was its own, and that's what it won for. So I'm very happy with its win. I think
Yeah.
it definitely deserved that. I can say a lot about Interstellar.
Yeah.
I didn't like the sound a lot. I'm not a huge fan of the cast, but the visual effects were gorgeous.
And the
I can't
four
deny
the
that.
4 other nominees in that category were all CGI nominations.
Exactly.
Interstellar was not. That was practical.
Yep.
And that was very cool to see that happen, especially post-Avatar.
I
So,
agree. Yep.
Yeah.
So that was a big win for that movie. Eddie Redmayne won lead actor. That was a huge shock for me. He was not my pick.
He was my number 2. I was going for Michael Keaton,
Right,
just
that's what I
because
said.
I liked the movie so much and I thought he did a great job. But Redmayne's performance was very technical.
Yes.
Took a lot of training and a lot of work.
It was very method acting, very reminiscent of how Daniel Day-Lewis
My
did
Left Foot.
Lincoln.
Oh,
I was gonna.
well, okay, sure. Yep.
I guess a little.
Both ways.
Well, that's kind of
Yeah.
the same actor that he is, though. He's a
Yeah.
method actor. That's what he does. You know, I heard that he would text Sally Field in his Lincoln persona, which is very funny. But
Yeah.
although Eddie Redmayne probably didn't go quite that far, the physicality of his performance was astounding. So I can see
Completely
why
believable.
he won.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So there was that. Julianne Moore also she won lead actress. An amazing performance in Still Alice. I don't know if you saw this one.
I did not. No.
The movie itself is about early onset Alzheimer's and kind of how she and her family learned to deal with this terrible disease. And her acceptance speech was very reminiscent of the fact that this is an ongoing problem and something which needs attention. But her performance was amazing.
Right.
It was incredible to see her lose herself without losing herself. And kind of that
Yeah,
struggle.
that's on
So-
my must-watch list now, pretty
Yeah.
much. So.
It didn't get a huge release in theaters, had a very limited audience going into the Oscars, and it wasn't until after, I'm sad to say, that now it's starting to get more buzz, which is good for the movie, obviously, because it gets it more exposure, but I definitely think it should have gotten more prior to that, because
Yeah.
I think it was more of a Best Picture nominee than some of the ones up there.
I wouldn't be surprised
Imitation Game is the one that I would probably replace it with, to be honest.
at all. Or, yeah, Theory of Everything is close, but yeah, definitely. I haven't seen Selma or American Sniper, so I can't really talk about either of them. But I want to see both of them, just so I can talk about them. I feel like I'm not allowed to talk about them until I see them.
Absolutely. Patricia Arquette, we already talked a little bit about. J.K. Simmons won
excellent.
Best Supporting
Yeah.
Actor in Whiplash, which was my personal favorite movie of the year. I really wanted it to win Best Picture. I understood why it didn't, obviously. And I'm glad that Birdman did. That was my number 2 pick. But Whiplash was just my absolute favorite.
I walked into the theater for Whiplash thinking I would never enjoy a movie as much as I enjoyed Birdman, but Whiplash was kind of just a visceral, it was really engaging, like probably the most engaging movie of the year. You're
Yeah.
always constantly on edge.
Yeah, I agree. J.K. Simmons probably gave his best performance,
Yeah.
and he wasn't playing J.K. Simmons like he usually does. He didn't have a bit part. He didn't have something which was flat. He had so much depth. He had just everything about this performance was astounding. It was my favorite movie of the year, 100%.
Yeah. And I didn't expect it to be anywhere near as good based on the premise alone. I feel
Yep.
like a lot of people watch the trailer and look at the premise and say, well, okay, it's Full Metal Jacket, but about music.
Yeah, and it
Whatever.
has a very simple premise, but it's the way it was executed that's what was the best part of it. Another big win was Big Hero 6. So that's how many in a row for Disney? I think like at least 3.
Something like
Something
that.
like
yeah,
that.
they've only lost since the award for that has only been around for 14 ceremonies now, maybe 15, and they've only lost like 3 of them.
Which is absolutely
Yeah.
ridiculous. So that's another huge win for Disney. Personally, I didn't see Big Hero 6. I know
Same.
a lot of people who did see Big Hero 6. I was rooting for How to Train Your Dragon 2.
Yeah.
Really liked that movie.
I
thought
feel like
that it-
I'm biased for How to Train Your Dragon. I just happen to like the franchise a lot. I don't care about the books, but the first movie
no, there were
surprised me. They were books. That's why it has a terrible title. The
Oh.
movie's title is awful, and that's because of the books.
well, thank you, books.
Yeah. That's our lesson today, I think.
Absolutely. So Grand Budapest Hotel, the other big winner of the evening with some pretty surprising wins. It won a lot of technical stuff.
All of the art awards,
Art of,
basically.
yeah, so it won costume design, makeup and hairstyling, music original score, which I said that it would win, Sam did not.
Nope.
And also production design. So the things that it didn't win, it had 9 nominations also. It did not win Best Picture, Cinematography, Directing, Film Editing, or Writing, all of which it was nominated for also. Definitely a very quirky movie, very standard Wes Anderson.
Yeah, I know a lot of people
film.
that are super tired of Wes Anderson at this point, who and they think they kind of he does the same thing every time,
He does.
but he does it really well.
well, but
he's
I mean,
very
when that's
good
the
at what he
one
does.
thing you do, you should probably do it well when you're doing it over
yeah,
and over again.
yeah. You know, you've got some directors that try to do a different genre every time. He does different stories every time, but it's the same style.
Yeah,
But
it's-
he nails that style, and they clearly put a lot of work and love into it.
I agree. I think that this Grand Budapest Hotel was probably my favorite of his movies. Second to that would be Life Aquatic. So I think that those two have a lot of the same characteristics, which is why I like them. One of which being the incredible cast. Grand
Right.
Budapest Hotel had a really, really great cast of people who just love working with Wes Anderson and who are always willing to be there with him. So
If they call him, they'll show up.
Yeah.
If Wes calls them, they show up every
Exactly.
time.
So there was an interesting documentary win too, which was Citizen 4, which was an HBO film. We were talking about this earlier today. Didn't realize that it had been that it was an HBO film. Thought that it was just in a theater, but it's on HBO Go now,
Yep,
so you
it's-
can watch it.
And I'll be watching that very soon. I don't think it surprised anybody that it won. It was like the only documentary that people were talking about. But now
Well, you watched
Virunga, which was Netflix's nomination,
Yes.
which was good. I definitely had problems with it. It's not a perfect documentary, and I liked it, but still nobody. I didn't hear anybody talking about it but myself. So, I'm interested to see how that movie treated the Edward Snowden story. Sorry.
And Boyhood, for its 6 nominations, it only walked away with 1 win, which was the actress in a supporting role category. It was nominated for actor in a supporting role, in addition, Best Picture, Directing, Film Editing, and Writing. So unfortunately, did not win any of those. And there was a lot of buzz going into the Oscars about this being a lock. It took 12 years to
Yeah.
make. This is the
Yeah.
one that is going to win. But
It's
just-
interesting to see the 2 big movies this year, I guess, Birdman and Boyhood. They both kind of had a major gimmick. Boyhood being, it's tough to call either of them gimmicks, but Boyhood's
I think gimmick's
gimmick
the right word.
is that it took so long to make, and that they were able to create something coherent out of all the content that they captured. And Birdman's gimmick was essentially that they made it appear to be one take, a single continuous shot through the movie. You're always following a single camera through the entire movie, and you almost never cut away.
Yeah.
But what I found interesting is that Boyhood advertised a lot that it took 12 years to make.
Yeah.
They were banking on that being the reason
That was
people
their
go.
Oscar bait.
When Birdman came out, that wasn't in the advertising at all. They didn't once tell people. Maybe there was something, but nobody really picked up on it. But Birdman, the press was never talking about it was one take, or
agree.
made to look like one take. And I have a lot of respect for that. That they weren't relying on the gimmick to sell tickets. Because that's something that probably people would be interested in if they knew about it. But when it came out, they didn't do that. They didn't lean in that.
Yeah, but I don't
And-
think it had, in addition to having a gimmick, as you called it, it also had a great cast.
Yeah.
It had it had really great production value, and it had a lot of good story behind it. So I think that it didn't really need a gimmick push because there was a story.
Yeah.
Boyhood didn't have a whole lot of story. It was a lot of
Yeah.
time and gimmick.
And people talking about things but never really plot.
Exactly. So there's that. But moving into film editing, which is my personal favorite category, Very happy with the winner of that, which was
Yeah.
Whiplash. I absolutely wanted it to win. Thought it had the best editing for a first time.
It was the first time director,
Yeah,
but
for the
not
first-
the first time editor.
Yeah, but for a first time director, I thought that film was incredible. And its editing was just, it magnified the way it was directed, in my opinion.
It could have easily just been a giant music video,
Yeah.
and it wasn't. Like
No.
the editing, and you can lean into the reason it won the sound mix too. Even the sound mix, they didn't just mix it like an album, like a jazz album. They mixed it to focus on the drums, to focus on the characters, and between the editing and the sound mixing, they were able to enhance the narrative just by what technical aspects they were focusing on.
I completely agree. So we're going to move into our 30-second roundtable discussion for you, Sam. So
Sure.
what are you watching? What are you playing right now?
I happened to, for some reason, I decided to pick up a PlayStation Vita, which is very unpopular, and nobody's happy with my decision.
No.
But I happen
I'm
to
okay
have...
with your decision.
Great, excellent, thank you.
You have one
Great,
supporter.
perfect. And I happen to have a huge backlog of PlayStation Plus games, which is the quote-unquote free games that you get for being subscribed. But so I've got this huge backlog, and I'm happy with it. I'm bringing it to school every day and work every day, so whatever. I'm not going to
right.
listen to them, except for Mike. He's okay.
Sounds good. So we're going to move into our next segment, which is Channel Surf. So welcome back. We are moving into our final segment, which is called Channel Surf. So we are joined by Travis. How's everything going?
It's going pretty well. I've been trying to watch The Slap on NBC. It's based off an Australian miniseries about a Greek family that runs into trouble when one of the members slaps another family friend's child. So it delves into child abuse. It goes further into abuse of wife, as well as mistrust between other family members. Starring Zachary Quinto, Peter Sarsgaard, Thandie Newton, just to say a few. They've got quite a large cast, actually.
Yeah.
One thing I've noticed is they've actually switched the order of the second and third episodes from the original Australian script.
You've watched both?
I've watched the first and second episode of the American one.
Okay.
And that second episode in America is centered mainly around Harry, the man who actually slaps the child, played by Zachary Quinto. He moves through his own family issues regarding his son and what kind of influence he is on him, as well as his own kind of work your way to the top American style.
Yeah. So this Australian miniseries, it ran for one season in 2011, and it had a 7.7 on IMDb as of right now. The interesting thing is that the current show, which I think they're saying is a miniseries because there's only been 8 episodes, but I don't know if they're going to renew it for a second season or try and extend it. It's only got a 5.8, so I'm not sure what we think the difference is. I don't know. Do you have any insight on what you think? Why is the American one worse, quote unquote, so far?
I don't know. All I know is that you should have filmed every one of my relatives' upbringings in the early 90s. We would have made a lot of money with this premise. So that's why I haven't watched it, because the concept's just like, what? But I should look into it, though.
I think I should too, because I don't know, but the cast is amazing. It's got we've got
definitely
Peter
is.
Sarsgaard, Zachary Quinto, Brian Cox, Uma Thurman, just to name a few, and I don't know. It seems to have an element missing, I guess. Maybe it's the accents.
It could be. I will say this third episode that's coming this week.
It's Thursday, right? Is
I
this Thursday?
believe it's
Okay.
Thursday.
Don't quote us on that.
No, it does have an 8 on IMDb already.
And that's before it's aired.
That's
Wow.
before it's aired. So this one was actually supposed to be the second episode, and this one mainly is going to revolve around Uma Thurman. One thing this show does very uniquely is it does a narration at the beginning and the end. It's sort of like if you've seen Elf
Okay.
or the recent Dr. Seuss movies. It gives you a development at the bookend case of each character, and each episode is named for the character it mainly revolves around.
Okay.
So it sort of creates this world where the characters are going through their own main issues, but it's throughout a different timeline. Like, not everyone's going through all the big things at once.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. It's definitely going to be interesting to see where that heads. We also have a couple other things that we're watching, mainly The Odd Couple, which has Matthew Perry in it. I don't know who keeps giving Matthew Perry shows.
Jobs, yeah.
This is his third sitcom on CBS pretty recently, the last of which being Go On, I believe it was called. That one it just flopped completely. What I wrote, my note about this new iteration of The Odd Couple is new font, same story. Because it's the exact
another
same
reboot.
thing. And it's a reboot. They just have a nice fancier font on the new poster. But other than that, there isn't a whole lot to talk about, because if you've seen the original, you've actually already seen the whole thing. I don't think that they've kept the plot exactly the same, to the point where the description on IMDb is word for word. So I'm not sure.
There's not much changing. I don't see it lasting very long. Then again, CBS does have some other series ending soon, so they might just be holding time over until they get a good idea out.
Yeah, some of the stuff ending. We saw 2.5 Men is ending. That's on CBS, as well as The Mentalist ending. And Parks and Rec, which is not on CBS, it's on NBC. That just had I believe it has its last episode tonight.
Airing tonight for us.
So we'll definitely have to keep an eye on that. So, Travis, we're going to move into our 30-second wrap-up for you. So what are you watching? What are you playing?
I am playing mainly League of Legends, and I've been watching Black Sails on Stars, and that's in its 2nd season, and that show's amazing.
Fair enough. So we're going to move now into our final discussion. So, Mike,
Yes,
what are you
Siobhan.
watching, and what are you playing?
I just watched the most amazing reboot of Power Rangers today. I believe it just dropped today.
I would say I'm surprised, but then I'd be lying.
I know. Go figure.
What are you playing right now?
Right now, I am playing the I Hate Destiny game. It's just a lot. It's been buggy recently, but it's what it is. But I discovered something. It just dropped a few weeks ago. Hashtag IDARB. Amazing.
It's a
Team
platformer.
Breakfast Heroes.
Yeah. It's a platformer soccer type game.
It's actually a little bit of soccer, a little bit of basketball, a little bit of Taco Bell.
It's got a lot going on, but it's really interesting. It kind of has like a live, as you play, you can tweet
It is
type
amazing.
thing.
Oh yes.
So,
however, that kills your latency.
yeah.
And you turn that off. And we actually found something interesting in the game. I don't know if you saw this during the beta or its release. Have you tried the hashtag bomb feature?
I have not. I'll have to try that. Do it? Okay.
Break physics. I'll give you 3 fun ones. There's one called. It's called the puke train, where it actually will at random speeds and at random frequency will zoom in your screen in and out while you're playing. There's one called I believe it's called Turn Out the Lights, where the screen goes black, and it cuts all game audio, like a really shrieking scream, and a face in there.
That's terrifying.
And the other one, it will summon the avatar of Rick Roll, and it will block your screen as he sings.
Fantastic. I'll definitely have to look into that. So personally,
there are 30 of them.
Oh man.
So just check it out.
Okay. So I'm currently playing. I know last week I think I said I was playing Portal or Papers, Please, but that's what I'm playing this week too. And then I'm watching Beyond Scared Straight, because that's fun. So that is everything I think we had for this time, and we will see you 2 weeks from now. So thank you for watching. Goodbye.